Already I'm putting this thing on and it's just hot as fuck. My god. Oh my god, the fucking mask is... One of the mask strings is broken. I'm gonna need a new fucking mask. Hi guys, I didn't really know what else to do right now, and I want to make a video, just like utilizing the facecam feature. I'm actually using my phone as a facecam. From the looks of it, it looks pretty nice, so I'm just gonna roll with this. How's it going, guys? It's Agent Kenshin here. We are going to be doing another tier list today. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I feel like we should do these every once in a while. I feel like releasing another video tonight, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rank every single stealth track in the entire game. Obviously, the score and the freelancer won't count. DLC, I'm gonna include, even though not everybody can play it, because, I mean, you can still listen to the tracks on, like, YouTube and shit, so, like, yeah. Alright, so without further ado, let's go. We have 5 tiers. First up... Wait, is that the withdrawal or the cache? I can't see. Okay, this is the cache. The auction, fuck. Alright, so, first thing we have is the auction. The auction is a fucking great... The auction has a great soundtrack. It's not the best, but it's actually a pretty good track. I actually like it. Black Dusk's track, also a really good stealth track. It's actually arguably one of the best in the entire game. I'd argue it's like top 3. Like, actually, matter of fact, because of that, top 3 gets up here. This has a really fucking nice stealth soundtrack, and it also just... It feels fitting for a map like this, so I'm gonna put it up there. Black Site also is top 3 in my fucking book. This has a phenomenal fucking soundtrack for stealth, and especially because this feels like the most Metal Gear Solid map in the entire game already. Just the music only helps set that tone even further, which is actually kind of why Black Site's one of my favorite maps, but we're not here to really talk about that. I already know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for that in the comments, aren't I? This is arguably one of the best stealth tracks in the entire game. Like, just hands down, it's such a great track. The cache, it's an alright soundtrack, honestly. Don't get me wrong, it's a pretty solid stealth soundtrack, but like, put up against the one that's for the auction one is so much better than the cache one. It's an alright soundtrack. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's kind of just like there. It's like, there's not really much with that song. Alright, this one I already know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for, and I'm going to explain my reasoning right a fucking way. This does not have a good soundtrack. I'm not gonna really put any in this tier. Let's not lie. Sish did a really good job picking out the tracks for this game, and there isn't actually any bad tracks in this entire game, except for like maybe one, which I've already talked about. Next we get on to Black Site. Definitely, this is probably one of the worst alts of the bunch, if not the worst alt. It's such a bad track. It's not from worst to best, it's from good to greatest. That being said, the Deposit one is not a very good stealth soundtrack at all. It's a great soundtrack. It is a fucking great soundtrack. It's intense, it's fast-paced, and you know, it's a cool soundtrack. But that's not what really stealth is about. Stealth is definitely intense, but not in like this sort of fashion. And the Deposit doesn't really have like a good stealth track. If anything, like if music worked the way it did from like Payday, this sounds like the Control theme for Deposit. This doesn't even sound like it's a stealth theme, like at all. I know what a stealth theme sounds like. I've literally played like all the fucking Metal Gear Solid games you could think of, except for like the PSP versions. The Deposit's a great track. It's not a very good stealth soundtrack. It's its own good soundtrack. If you're going to be mean to me in the comments, yeah, just suck my fucking 3-inch cock. I don't care about you. Next up, we have the Financer one. The Financer one is actually a pretty goddamn good soundtrack. Like, this is a fucking great track. The cool thing about this track is that it fits the map so well. Like, Financer is a generally laid-back map. It's a good grind, so you can kind of just relax. Sorry, this soundtrack definitely does set that kind of feel. The only reason it's not in best map, actually, I'd say that this is probably one of the closest ones to being in top 3. The only reason it's not is because this theme, being one of the themes that I hear like all the time, gets so fucking repetitive sometimes. It's still a great theme, though. The Freelancer, I said we're not going to touch it, so now we're getting onto the Gala. This has an alright soundtrack. It's kind of like on the same sort of track as what we had with the deposit one, where like it's not really so much of a stealth track as much as it is just its own little track. But it definitely does, it's definitely like a much more stealthier track than deposit. And not only that, like, this actually fits the theme better of being briefing screen music for notoriety than it does a stealth track for, well, a Gala. But yeah, like, it's alright. It doesn't fit the setting too much. And I feel like this is more of like a... I feel like this theme could be better in like... I feel like this theme could have been better in like the theme of like the cachet. This one, this has a pretty decent track. For its own track, it's definitely a pretty good stealth track, but there's only a few problems with this track. One, this gets a little too intense for something that's a training mission. Two, no one really plays the Killhouse stealth, like, at all, and it's not very much of a good map to stealth in the first place, so yeah, Killhouse is just, I don't know. Now, this, I fucking hate this map. I hate it so fucking bad. And one of the things I said in this review was that the music is a fucking banger. This soundtrack is arguably the best soundtrack in the entire game. It is probably the most laid-back soundtrack for stealth in the entire game. And just, it fits in like any sort of setting. It's just that much of an adaptable stealth soundtrack, which is kind of like what I feel like, you know, the Black Site one has. I feel like the Lake House track and the Black Site track are like kind of like neck and neck with like how good they are, and the Lake House has such a fucking great soundtrack. It does not fit with the setting at all though. This track is super laid back, but the fucking Lake House is just anything but that sometimes. Or no, all the time, sorry. So yeah, Lake House, probably one of the greatest soundtracks in the entire game. I'll probably do like a ranking of like every single one of the best soundtracks in the entire game. What the fuck was that? This one, it doesn't really have a good soundtrack for stealth. What do I even have to say about this one? It fits, I definitely feel like that kind of police department vibe, but this doesn't really sound like a good stealth soundtrack. Scientist. Yeah, it's an alright soundtrack. It's not really great. This one's definitely a fitting soundtrack for the map, especially as far as just overall how the map looks. I don't know why, but like certain instruments I feel like work with certain settings. Like there's certain, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but like, you ever just like hear, like you ever just see like a snowy place in like a video game, and then like you imagine what the theme is gonna sound like, and then when you hear the theme in game, it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fitting for like an icy place. Did I even explain that right? The score, best stealth track in the entire game, let's go. SCRS has a fucking amazing stealth soundtrack. It's definitely not better than these two, but it's actually a pretty good soundtrack. It feels mysterious in its own way, which is kind of like not really what SCRS is about. It's weird to explain how this theme works the way it does. I don't know how to fucking explain it. It's just a good track. The setup, another fucking great soundtrack. Out of all the 4 stealth-only maps in the entire game, this one has the best one. So this one has by far just the best sounding theme. It's not like a generic stealth soundtrack that can go with like any stealth situation, but at the same time I feel like it's so much better than just your average stealth soundtrack that it can go with any sort of stealth situation. I can't explain things for fucking shit today. And finally we get to the withdrawal. I'm gonna be honest, this is not a really good theme either. This sounds like cutscene music much more than it does stealth music. But then again, I will argue that it does sound laid back enough to be, you know, kind of what Withdrawal is. It's a rather laid back map. It's also another one of those grind maps. But again, it feels much more like it should be cutscene music than it should be stealth music. So like, that just kind of puts it in like a weird place. And here we have the entire tier list. So yeah, this is just the entire tier list. I already know that I'm probably gonna get a few agreements, a few disagreements, and it is completely fine. Don't scream at me in the comments below unless you want to get screamed at back. Especially with music, taste is very subjective. Me, as somebody who plays stealth games a lot and enjoys stealth games a lot, I feel like this was the best place to put everything. Again, the ones that are down here are not bad soundtracks, except for maybe this one. This one's not a really good soundtrack, like, in itself. As I've said, every single soundtrack in this entire game is good. It's just a matter of, like, these ones are so much better that this one becomes, like, the worst one. But just the rest are that good. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Agent Kenshin, out.